Aloha, welcome to the Hawaiian Homes Commission public hearing for Nexamp Solar's proposed Kawaihae community-based renewable energy project. My name is Julie Cachola. I'm a planner with the planning office, and I'll be helping walk through this informational material. Let's start with the agenda. The overall agenda for the public hearing is basically in 3 parts I'm going to cover. So part 1 is basically to provide information on the project and the terms of the agreement. And the first part of that includes a pre-recorded informational briefing where we'll cover, why dhhl is involved in renewable energy, how this works, an overview of the process, and also an explanation of HECO's community-based renewable energy program. And then we'll have a presentation by Nexamp, who will present their Kawaihae project, and we'll go over the proposed terms of the agreement. Then the pre-recorded session will end and we'll go into a live session, and this will involve people that are either in attendance at the location or that are attending virtually. And we can answer the questions that you may have after the informational briefing. At that point, at the end of the questions, we'll go into part 2 of the hearing, which is the formal part of the hearing. And the reason, so keep in mind that this formal part of the hearing, the commission can only receive testimony. So there's no interaction. So if you ask a question in your testimony, nobody's going to be able to answer you. So that's why we have the informational time ahead of time, so you can ask all the questions there. But once we start the formal part, then it's just people presenting testimony. At the end of the part 1, if you've already signed up to testify through the DHHL website, we will call you first to testify. And if now, after hearing the information presented, you would like to testify and are in person, then please see a DHHL staff member to get signed in. And if you're participating via Zoom, please type your request in the chat box that you want to testify. And then if you're dialing in by phone, you would have an opportunity to testify after those testifiers finish. And so they'll ask if anybody on the phone wants to submit testimony. At that point, when your name is called, you would unmute your microphone and present testimony, and you have 3 minutes to present your testimony. The third part of the hearing is actually the decision-making part of the hearing, which will occur on Wednesday, October 13th at 1:30. For those of you who want to attend live, it's at Kawaihae in Waimea. Others can see it via live stream, although I have to say that an executive session is anticipated, which means that they would be offline, so we won't be able to see or hear some of that discussion that's in executive session. But eventually they'll come out of executive session and they'll probably take a vote if you're interested in that. Now I want to focus on what it is that we're looking at for the public hearing. So the relevant decision for the Kawaihae project is F2. And what they're looking at is an approval for a right of entry permit up to 3 years for due diligence purposes. So they would be doing studies on site, basically. And after that point, they have to generate an environmental assessment based on their studies. That also has to go out for beneficiary consultation, and the commission would approve their finding of no significant impact. And so, that'll take a couple years to do doing the right of entry time. And then at the end of that, and if they do get an agreement with the utility to produce energy, then there's an option for a general lease to kick in. The general lease would be for 25 years, and it would be for the 21 acres of land at Kawaihae for this solar project, and that would generate 4 megawatts of energy. And so that's what we'll cover now, is we'll give you some background information on the project itself. But that is basically what the commission is looking at for decision making on the 13th, which is the third part of the hearing. So in the meantime, make sure your mics are muted. And if you are listening to the information informational briefing, you can still write your comments and questions in the chat box, and those will be answered first as soon as this informational briefing is finished. And then when we go live for the question and answer portion, you can also raise your hand and submit your question, ask your question at that point. Okay, so let's get started. The first place where we start, why is DHL involved in renewable energy? Why in Kawaihae? Why now? How does this all work, right? DHL starts, the way we start getting involved in 2009, the commission's passed our energy policy. It's called Ho'omaluo. Our energy policy has many different objectives, but up front, it's basically the idea was to enable Native Hawaiians to lead the effort in achieving energy self-sufficiency and sustainability. We felt that Hawaiians should be at the forefront of that in that effort in the state. And then it follows up with different objectives along those lines. Some objectives would be to look at our lands to see if they're conducive for renewable energy development, and that's what we did in this case. Also, the reason why we get involved is in 2015, governor signed into law a groundbreaking, game-changing kind of requirement that has the utilities needing to produce 100% of their electricity from renewable energy sources by the year 2045. Now, this is game changing, right? This is not a small percentage of, their efforts being about renewable energy, but 100%. So overnight, it created the need and demand for renewable energy development in the state. And the HECO and all the utilities are trying to figure out, okay, how are they going to make this 100% requirement? For DHL on our side, we have needs, and renewable energy development can deliver, general revenue that would help us to develop new homesteads, and it can also deliver community benefits to our homesteaders. So, that is a consideration. But also, our lands, it turns out, we have a lot of trust lands, over 200,000 acres of land statewide, and some of those lands have excellent renewable energy resources, whether it's solar or wind, even hydroelectric resource. So we do have trust lands that are actually in a very good position to provide renewable energy. So for Kawaihae, let's look at our lands. So these are lands in North Hawaii, Kawaihae being over 10,000 acres of land going up to the 4,600 foot elevation level on the leeward side of the mountains. When we then look at the solar resource itself, and we kind of put that overlay onto our lands, we find that in the dark areas, which is the areas that have the highest solar radiation or the highest amount of solar energy, our lands on the Makai side of Kawaihae, fall right within that high area of high solar resource. So let's take a look. Let's see. Yeah, that area on the Makai parcel, the Makai area parcel of our Kawaihae lands fall within that high resource area. When we look at our lands and what we want to be doing with them, our guideline is the island plan, and we look at our island designation. So let's look at getting closer here. In this area on the Makai side, we have this middle portion between the industrial designated lands for commercial use, and this is the part, and in that is the parcel that we're in. That area is the parcel that we're looking at for renewable energy. So this is the 91 acres of commercial lands that it belongs within, and that is the blue area is the 21 acres that we're looking at for this project. So this project would be located right before you get into the industrial area, yeah? And here's a closer close up of that 21-acre parcel right before the industrial area. So let me explain how DHL gets involved with renewable energy development. This is a very simplified picture, graphic of actually more complex relationships, but I'm trying to simplify it. Basically, there are three different players on this table. There is the utility, there is the renewable energy producer, and there is the landowner. So let me go through it. So the utility, remember, needs to produce 100% of their electricity in using renewable resources by 2045. So that they're under the gun to do that. The way they do this is that they're looking to buy renewable energy from renewable energy producers, right? They can't just produce all of this by themselves. So they're buying the renewable energy that they can put to their grid to make 100% by 2045. Their process starts with the RFP, or request for proposals, and it goes through a very complex and competitive process that ends up with a power purchase agreement, which is essentially a legally binding agreement that binds the utility and the renewable energy producer. So this is where the utility is saying, we will buy X amount of energy from you, the producer, for X amount of money, and the producer is saying, and we will produce that much energy for you, right? We will have that energy available. So that's power purchase agreement is the instrument that allows them to do that. And they go through a competitive process to be able to be that producer. In the middle here, we have the renewable energy producer. Now, this is a group that has the technology. They know how to turn sun into energy, into electricity. And they usually, what they need is the land. They need the area to do it in. So they have the technology. They're looking for the location. The location hopefully has a good solar resource, right? But they need to have land. And of course, they need to have the utility to buy their energy that they produce. So in terms of the land, that's where we come in. DHL is the landowner, and our binding agreement, is directly to the renewable energy producer, and that is in the form of a general lease. They're using our land. So from this arrangement, we get general lease revenue for lease rent. And then because we also have beneficiaries that we need to consider, there are two things that we look at with regard to the beneficiaries. One is that we make sure that the project minimizes any adverse impacts to our communities. And on the other side, on the other hand, we also look at how we can maximize community benefits, right? Whether it's by, funding different regional plan priority projects or workforce development. And, anytime we go into community and we talk about renewable energy, there's no fail that somebody will say, well, why don't you just lower our electric bills, right? So we're looking at maximizing those community benefits for our beneficiaries. And so that's basically the three different players on the table on how we get involved in renewable energy development as a landowner. This graphic shows the same three players, but over time and the major processes that are at work here. So hang with me for a while. So the HECO issues their request for proposals, and the renewable energy developer has to submit it. And what they're really concerned with is, do they really have the land? Do they have the land? Do they have site control over the land where they can produce this energy? And if their price is right and everything, then they can get a power purchase agreement, and which also has to be approved by the Public Utilities Commission. On our side, we solicited a proposal similar to HECO. We said, hey, does anybody interested in producing renewable energy on our site here at Kawaihae? And we received several proposals, and we evaluated those proposals, and we came up with NextAmp having the best proposal. So we continued with NextAmp, and we conducted our beneficiary consultation meetings. And here we are right now conducting our 2 public hearings, which will end up in a decision on our right of entry agreement and general lease. Right, that would be the outcome of these public hearings. At that point, they will be able to start looking on the site, doing due diligence work, completing their environmental studies. And the environmental assessment has to cover everything from cultural impacts to botanical impacts, economic impacts. So there's a lot of studies that have to go on here that'll take time to do. And the thing that comes out is a final environmental assessment, and that also gets subject to beneficiary consultation, review, and input, and approval by the commission. So that's another decision that must be made on whether they decide to approve their final environmental assessment and a FONSI, which is a finding of no significant impact. If that is in place, and if they get the PPA from HECO, then the general lease would kick in, and that will allow them to do their construction and operations of the project. So that's basically what would be happening after today's public hearings. So let me explain now this new initiative that HECO has, which is the community-based renewable energy initiative. And the best way to explain it for me was to kind of an animation that explains the story of how this works. So this story starts with basically homes that have put up solar panels on their roof, and they're hooked up to grid so that if they don't make enough energy on their panels, they can still flip their switch on and still have the electricity they need. This is HECO Power Plant. I live in Waianae, so I just took a picture of this, but basically this is the utility, and they're still connected up to the utility, and they're happy because they're for that connection to remain open. They're paying a nominal fee, $20 a month, very cheap. They're happy that they're not paying these high, electric bills. But what happens is there are also people that live in high-rise buildings, in apartment buildings or in condominiums, where they can't put up rooftop solar PV on their roof. They don't have roofs to construct on. And so they have not been able to enjoy the benefits of renewable energy development. We also have homes that they can't afford it, or maybe trees are in the way, or they don't have the solar power, or it's too expensive. So they have not been able to erect the PV panels on their roof. So they're not enjoying the benefits. And as a result, they're paying very high, electric bills every month. And so they're not too happy, and they haven't been able to participate in renewable energy or get the benefits. So HECO, knowing this, starts this initiative, the Community-Based Renewable Energy Initiative. And this is a way to extend the benefits to these people that are not normally right now receiving benefits from renewable energy development. And it starts with a subscriber organization. And this a subscriber organization is really the renewable energy developer. So in this case, Nexamp, right? And they are required to secure a site. Like I said, they're interested in site control, where they construct a solar project, right? But and that solar energy goes directly to grid, to the utility, right? And what happens is they're also a subscriber organization. So what that means is they sign up subscribers from these other places that haven't been able to enjoy the benefits of renewable energy. So they sign up as subscribers to this project, and the project then tells HECO, okay, here's our list of subscribers, right? So when they cut their monthly bills, they know that, oh, this person is a subscriber to this community-based renewable energy project, so they actually get a lower bill. And so that's how the bill will be decreased by at least 10%, 10 to 15%. And so that's how they're now enjoying the benefits of renewable energy development. And so that's kind of like what the whole community-based renewable energy initiative is about, and the reasons and how it works with subscribers. So now we will have the presentation by Nexamp, and she will be Julie will be able to explain better how this all works. Julie is the Director of Business Development in Hawaii, and I'll turn this over to her now.
Thank you, Julie. Hi, everyone. My name is Julie Boschman. Like Julie said, my role at Nexamp is Director of Business Development. I've been with the company for a little over 7 years, and I'm pleased to be talking to you today about the Kawaihae project that we're proposing. I'll first start by talking about the state of renewable energy in Hawaii. A little bit about the CBRE2 program, more detail, and then I'll show the site, the proposed layout of the site and where all the equipment is proposed, and then talk a little bit about the benefits that we plan to bring to the community and the beneficiaries. So Nexamp is a company based on the mainland. We've been in business since 2007. We were started by two best friends from high school who started their company out of a garage. They started the company in order to bring solar and renewable energy solutions to local homes and local businesses. And since that time, the company has grown a lot. We're now backed by a subsidiary of Mitsubishi company called Diamond Generating Corporation. We operate in over 18 territories in the US, and 12 of those are community solar markets, meaning that they have a community solar program, and Nexamp comes in, we find land, we design a site layout, we get the local permits and approvals, we build the system, and then we own and operate all of our projects for the whole life of the project, meaning that our community partners will always have one point of contact for the project. There's a lot of developers that just do different pieces of projects. They'll either start the development and sell the project to someone else. We don't plan to do that. We really want to own the project throughout the life, and we want to have strong, lasting relationships with the communities that we're in. So we're really excited about this project. I wanted to show our mission statement. Nexamp's mission statement is building the future of energy so it's clean, simple, and accessible. And this really goes along with the idea behind community solar, and that's why we're a great fit for this type of project, because we really do think that renewable energy solutions should be easily accessible to all people, no matter what your income is, and they should be clean, so you're contributing to a cleaner environment, and they should be easy for everybody to understand. So right now in Hawaii, only 1 in 3 homes have rooftop solar, and that's for a number of reasons, and Julie talked about a few of those, but mostly because it's hard. You have to have the right type of roof. So you have to have a roof that faces a certain direction, is clear of all obstructions. It can't be shaded by any trees if you have a really shady yard, and also it can be very expensive to buy solar panels for your home. So that's why community solar is a great solution, because you don't have to have any equipment. You just get credits or discounts automatically on your bill without any cost. And I'll talk a little bit more later about Nexamp platform and our subscription model and how we do that. But Julie mentioned the state goal of 100% renewable energy by 2045. We're only at about 35% here in Hawaii right now, and so we really have a long way to go to reach that goal. And community solar is a great way to get there, because they're smaller projects than Hawaii is typically seen, and they're going to benefit people directly for the first time. So the CBRE2 program is a program that's created by Hawaiian Electric. It's overseen by the Public Utilities Commission, and Hawaiian Electric evaluates bids. It's a competitive bidding process where developers like Nexamp have projects, they have sites that they're hoping to build on, and they will submit their plans for those sites as proposals to Hawaiian Electric, and Hawaiian Electric will evaluate the benefits of those projects and come up with a list that they've selected. So we have a lot of steps for this project before we can actually build it, and I'll talk about that a little more, but the phase 2 objectives of CBRE are really to like I said, bring more renewable energy to Hawaii faster, to make up for some projects that may have fallen out of previous programs, or maybe they didn't make it all the way through for different reasons, to really give low to moderate income customers access to renewable energy. That's a big part of this. And this project, we have it planned to be a low to moderate income project. I'll talk about the different requirements for that. But it's also this program to speed up bringing renewable energy forward, bringing more developers in who are interested and who can actually get it done. And then also there's a lot of fossil fuel plants being taken offline in the coming years. It's already happening, a big one next year on Oahu. And this renewable energy will help make up for that dirtier energy. So in Kawaihae, we are proposing a low to moderate income project. And what this means is that based on the low 80% income limits as shown on this chart, so you can see the number of people in your family and what your income limit would be. If you meet that limit, you're eligible to be subscribed to this project. And so as part of the program, the rule is that at least 60% of the power generated has to go to homes, has to go to family homes, residences, apartments, things like that. The other 40% can be bigger power users, nonprofits, groups that benefit the homesteads. And so what we're hoping with this project is that we can make it 100% residents. So our goal is to subscribe all family homes to this project. If we're not able to do that, if for some reason there's not enough interest, we can't get enough people to sign up, or we can't reach enough people, then we would look to those nonprofit groups to help make up for the rest of the subscriptions. And so this is a 4 megawatt project, and that means it can host about 600 homes total. So this shows the Kawaihae site layout. So on the left, you'll see that yellow line is the property boundary, so the boundary line for the parcel. It's Mauka of the highway there. There's proposed 4 megawatts of solar and batteries, which would be inside and kind of in the middle of the site there. And in total, we're proposing about 21 acres. So that would be the fenced area. And there's also an access road and a utility access area, which is some poles, and I'll show what that looks like in a little bit. But one thing I want to mention is that this is a tracker system, and so you'll see on the right hand side, that's where the equipment is shown from an aerial view. And the panels, they're rows that run north to south, and you'll see a picture of these in a minute, but the panels turn slowly with the sun throughout the day, which helps capture as much energy as possible. And so that red outline that you see on the right there, that would be the fence. And so all the equipment per National Electric Code has to be fenced in. And then you can see there's a label that says equipment pad. That's where the battery would be, and also the inverter, and I'll show pictures of that equipment as well. This is what the project would look like. It'd be very similar to this from a ground view. So you can see those are the tracker panels. You can see they're just long rows of panels all together. Again, they turn slowly with the sun. They're bifacial panels, which means that they capture light on both the top and the bottom. So when they turn, they can get sun from both sides, which is kind of cool. Again, it just helps bring in the most clean energy as possible. And that is an example of what the fence might look like. That's a nice farm fence that we like to use to be a little more compatible with the surrounding uses. This is showing our construction workers at the site. So just to give you a reference for how tall the equipment is. So the panels are usually about 3 to 4 feet off the ground and about 10 to 12 feet on the top edge of the panel. So you can see it's pretty clean and neat once it's all done, like shown on the left-hand side. All it really is steel stakes that are pounded into the ground, and then the racking system there, and all the wiring is tucked and kept pretty clean and neat underneath the panels. This is what you would see at the beginning, or the access to the site. There are usually anywhere from 3 to 6 poles that are included in the beginning, and this is for emergency equipment at the top, like emergency shutoff, equipment that is really essential to keeping the site going, including a transformer. And these are poles that the utility might need to access in order to do maintenance or shut off the site for some reason. But from the tops of the poles to the last pole is above ground wires. But after the last pole, all the wiring is underground, and it goes into the panels area from there. So again, it's pretty tidy there. On the left-hand side, that shows a directory that is typically included on the first pole or like the entrance of the site. And that shows, you know, how the site is laid out in case emergency responders need to get in and help someone. For some reason, a maintenance person passes out or something happens, they know exactly where everything is on the site. This is the larger equipment that I talked about would be in the center of the panels. So it wouldn't be easily viewed from the road. But on the left-hand side, that's what a solar battery looks like. And the purpose of the battery is to be able to release energy onto the grid when it's needed the most. So when everyone comes home at night and turns their lights on, that's typically when power is used the most, in the morning and at night, when people aren't home and they're working. The utility can use the batteries to put out clean energy at those peak demand hours, so that everything kind of flows nicely on the grid. And then on the right-hand side is, on the left part of it is the cabinet. So it's called a DAS. It's a monitoring system where we can really see from a computer everything that's going on with the site, how it's performing, if there's any problem areas, and we can actually shut the system down from our computer, which is pretty cool. And on the right-hand side is an inverter, and the purpose of the inverter is it converts direct current or DC power, which is what the panels take in from the light, to alternating current, AC power, which is what's used on the grid and what everyone uses on their homes. So it just has to convert that sunlight power into usable power. So there's some really cool projects that we have that have dual use, and this is something that's really important to us, to be able to fully utilize the site and make sure that it's compatible with the surrounding values and the community characteristics. So we have about 15 sites right now that have sheep on them on the mainland, and this is not only for site maintenance, so it helps us avoid having to bring loud, noisy lawnmowers on the site. The sheep maintain the grass really well. And another great part of it is that we can support a local rancher or herder who comes and takes care of the sheep, and they get an extra income from the solar project. So this is something that we're working with with a group on Oahu, a rancher couple who does an excellent job maintaining existing solar sites with sheep. They come take care of them every day, and it really is a good use of the land to support local agriculture. So the sheep afterwards contribute to local food production. There's more and more chefs and restaurants who are looking for sheep and lamb. So we're really pleased to be able to not only contribute to clean energy, but also to local food production. So that's just one idea for this site. We want to choose what the community values and what is best for the site. So another thing we can do is create a pollinator habitat, so we can have beehives with local wildflowers planted. We've done certified wildlife habitats where we find out, what kind of details we can put into the site to make it more environmentally friendly. And then one thing I'd love to hear from the community more about is, what kind of crops or what kind of plants can we put on the site that someone can come take care of and actually harvest. We know we can't have big field crops because we can't fit big machines into the site, but something that could be hand-picked that doesn't require direct sunlight all day would be a really nice option. And then we'd also love to hear any other suggestions that the community has. Moving on to community benefits, this is the most important part of this project. So we hope that we can bring somewhere between 10 and 12% monthly discount to subscribers' bills. The program rules are still being finalized. We're still trying to figure out, how we submit our proposal and our bid and what the project economics look like. But this is typical for a community solar subscription discount is between 10 and 12%. And we would prioritize the beneficiaries. So we have a list of subscribers, we would put them at the top, and then we would, if we need more subscribers, we'd look to the direct community for those. And so this discounted electricity would be for 20 plus years. I'll talk a little bit more about what signing up looks like and what the details are there, but it's really very simple. Another benefit is that we upgrade the infrastructure around the site if needed, and the utility will determine that, but usually we're updating lines, making the grid stronger against storms and different outage events. Local workforce opportunities, so we'll have a training program in place for jobs around construction and maintenance. And, those will be for months at a time, and maintenance will be for the 25 plus years. So we look forward to having local people apply to those jobs and actually physically involved in building the site. We have pledged to make donations as part of the terms of our agreement with the HHL to nonprofit organizations that serve the homesteads and the beneficiaries. I talked about the local food production through solar sheep farms, but we're also interested in other agricultural approaches. And then the one thing I like to mention is this really is a low impact use to the land. It's very easy to remove at the end of the life. It's not like a housing development or other building where you need sewers and pipes and different things. It's really very compatible with the land. We will remove it at the end of the project, smooth out the area and the land, and it can be easily used for agricultural or another use. Nexamp's community solar program is something that we've done for over 5 years now. And it's really very beneficial. So there's no cost associated. Sometimes you'll hear about community solar programs where you have to buy in or buy a part of the project. This is not that type of community solar. What it is you sign up to receive credits on your bill, and that's that. There's no long-term commitment. If as long as you're living on island, you can be a part of this project. And if you wanted to cancel for some reason, we would just want 90 days notice. We're not looking into your credit score, your financial background. We're not asking you for any costs up front. It really is a really nice, easy program, and we look forward to CBRE 2 opening up so that we can start signing people up. So the way that you would sign up under CBRE 2 and with Nexamp is through Hawaiian Electric's portal that they've created for this program, and it's communityenergyhawaii.com. And so you would sign in with your utility account. You would see kind of a marketplace of all the CBRE2 projects. And so through our outreach and our mailers, we would ask you to find our project in that marketplace, or we would direct you to it and then ask you to sign up through there. It should be very easy, just a click, maybe a little typing, but then you would be signed up and you would wait to receive credits. Our local outreach would include in-person, hopefully we're all in person by then, meetings for informational sessions, questions and answers about community solar and our program, and walk you through the different steps and how to sign up. This would be in a public place, you know, during hours where it's easy for everyone and someplace easy to get to. We would also send out direct mail with more information, and we can also do printed ads in newspapers. We can do posts on Facebook and other social media, and we can also post flyers in common places so that people know that this is available to them. This is just showing what our outreach materials might look like. So we've got a direct mailer there. It would have our logo at the top. It would have a message about the project, maybe some information about timing, if there's an event coming up, and how you can subscribe, and different details about community solar. This is a flyer we've done in the middle here that we've posted before. This would be posted in common public areas. And then Facebook posts, event invitations, and different information posted on social media. We are really happy to be able to send out an onboarding kit to subscribers. So as soon as you subscribe and just before you would receive credits from the project, you would receive this onboarding kit. It's a nice little gift we like to give. It's got a tote bag, a sticker, a letter, but the most important thing is a resource booklet that has questions and answers about community solar and how you can get in touch with us if there's any problems. This shows the latest CBRE2 schedule. You can see we're waiting for number 8 there, which is the final RFP, or HECO's request for proposals, to be issued. And so they're waiting for Public Utilities Commission's final thumbs up to go ahead and start the program, and we're waiting for that too. So we're hoping that comes in the next few days. So hoping to be able to submit a proposal for this site in late November, early December. And after we submit our proposal, which is a lot of details about how we're going to work with the community, what our technical scope is, you know, different steps along the way, our local approval process. Really, it's a big proposal to put together. So the utility will take time to review that in a few months, and then they have a short list. So they select a group of projects that they think was the most beneficial out of the bunch. We then give a best and final offer, and that offer is a price that the utility is going to pay the developer to be able to run the site every year and bring the credits to subscribers. So once that best and final offer is in, the utility takes another few months to evaluate that, and then they will give us our final award. And so once we receive our final award is when we would start all of our major studies and all of our reaching out to local stakeholders, working with the county, everything that's needed to be okay to start construction on the site. And during that time, we would also have multiple community meetings, just updating the community on what we found in our studies, you know, how our layout might have changed, you know, are we using different panels than we originally said, those types of things.
All right, thank you, Julie. This we want to now go into the specific terms of the agreement between DHHL and Nexamp for the Kawaihae project. This is kind of like the summary of the big ticket items. As we're looking at, the approval would be for a right of entry agreement for 2 years to do their due diligence work, their studies on site, and that would be for the 2 years, $20,000. And if they need another year extension, that would be at $10,000 for the extension for 1 year. At the end of that, they would have, their environmental assessment completed, and will know whether or not they got a PA from PPA, power purchase agreement from HECO. And assuming that those the big ticket items get completed, then they would exercise, they would want to call in to play the general lease part of the disposition. And so to do that, they would enter a fee of give us a fee of $30,000, and that's a fee to exercise a general lease option. So once you get into the general lease mode, there's basically two different type phases here. There's a construction term, which is when they're actually constructing the site, and that would be about 2 years with an option for a year extension, and that there would be no charge during that time. This is when they have to put out a lot of capital outlay to be able to construct the project. And at the end of that construction period, they would be operational. They would be able to flip the switch and start generating energy. Energy would be brought to grid, to HECO. And they're looking at, this is part of HECO too, is saying that, these projects should be operational by January 24th, 2023. And so at that point, the second part, the operational term, would kick in. And at that point, for the 21 acres at Kawaihae, we're looking at $2,500 an acre per year. So that's about $52,500 per year. And that term would be for 25 years. There is also options for increases during that time on the lease rents that still have to be worked out. During that same time frame, when they're ready to go into commercial operations, there is a one-time only fee of $30,000 to say when they're getting ready to get into commercial operations on the same date. And they would also be giving out that $20,000 community donation at that time as well. I want to also emphasize that in the terms, there are no subscription fees for DHL beneficiaries, and that they would be asked to, at the end of the 25 years, to remove their improvements that they brought to the land there. Now, those are the general terms for this project that would be approved on October 13th at the decision-making part of this public hearing. Finally, I just wanted to go over some next steps. As we've explained, we're waiting for HECO to release the RFP, should be any day, the request for proposals. At that time, an Nexamp would submit a proposal. We would have demonstrated a site control by this right of entry and general lease agreement. And if they get selected, then they will beginning their due diligence works on site, and so they can complete the environmental assessment, and that would be brought out for more beneficiary consultation, and that would also be approved by the commission at some later date. But so those would be the immediate next steps, provided that hopefully the Nexamp makes it all the way through to get that PPA from HECO. Okay, so this ends the informational part of our meeting. We will be going live now to answer questions. Perhaps you had written down questions in the chat box as you're hearing the presentation, or you can raise your hand or submit your questions in the chat box, and we'll go to the live session now. Thank you. Mahalo.